Howdy moles, as a New Year's resolution, I said I was going to beat and review more games this year. I set the goal to 100. It's not that much, just beating one game every 3 days or so. I used to do that as a kid, but the reviewing part I'm a little late to. Oops! In this video I'm talking about Castlevania 1, 2, Haunted Castle, and Haunted Castle Revisited. I've made retrospective sorts of videos on these already, so I'm going to keep these ones short compared to the long reviews. I'll put the long reviews on the end card. But the gameplay will come from those videos as well. Castlevania. I love the Castlevania series, but those who played Castlevania know that the series is divided into two very different eras, the Classic Era and the RPG Era. During the Classical Era, we have a focus on challenging combat, arcade-like gameplay, and platforming. This era has the sparks of what will later become the Metroidvania genre that we see once Symphony of the Night rings it in. Since this is the first Castlevania, you can guess that this one comes from the Classical Era. Listen to me. I sound like I should be holding a glass of wine. Classical Era. What a dork. Get a load in this guy. Anyway, Castlevania is known for being hard, and I wanted to see that for myself. So I did a live stream of me getting sloppier than your mom after her first bottle of wine. I'm kidding. But seriously, dude, she does have a problem. Alcoholism on wine isn't fancy. It's still alcoholism. Once sloppy, I beat the hell out of the game. Not in one sitting, but I still beat the hell out of the game. Wasn't easy, but I don't consider this to be a hard game so much as a very fair game. The story starts with Simon fulfilling his responsibility as a Belmont to slay the evil Dracula. He just resurrected and he didn't even need gas station pills to get upright again. Dude is dangerous, so we are going to do a little breaking and entering and kill him. I played the one on the GBA because it has a save system. I didn't use save states though. No issue with people who do. Games are supposed to be fun first. If save states make it more fun, then do it, duder. The difference between the NES and GBA version is mostly the save system. On the NES, you get unlimited continues, and if you lose all your lives, you start from the most recent stage. Considering the other games at this time, this was incredibly forgiving. So as long as you don't shut off your NES, you can take as many shots as you need to. GBA version saves at the start of every new stage, so it's like the NES version, but I don't have to cry if the power goes out. As I said, people say this one is one of the hardest games in the NES era, but I think this entry is on the more forgiving side. Many of the games in this era were one-hit death games, and frankly, Frankensteinly, Castlevania could never function properly in a one-hit death manner. Thankfully, you have a health bar, multiple lives, deaths only reset back one room, continues reset you to the very beginning of the level, and are infinite. This isn't anywhere close to the classic Nintendo hard that 80s kids were talking about. Contra is a way better example of that. Konami doesn't seem to care for the difficulty of the game though. The Anniversary Collection not only has save states, but has cheats too. But like Souls games, I think this is more about memorization, remembering where things are, what enemies do what, and where the enemies appear. I think people have just gotten used to games where you can beat them the first try. I'm not ripping on that though. I'm glad games are easier now. Even Dark Souls is easier than games used to be because you can always level up or get a buddy to help you. The only buddy help you got on the NES era was hoping that your brother was better at the game than you. I don't have an older brother. I had to suffer in silence with this. The game is very short, and I do think you should play it. Its combat is great by delaying Simon's whip, and it forces you to dedicate to an attack. Spamming is a mistake. It just leaves you open. The sub-weapons are fun and cover the whip's shortcomings. The pixel art is peak NES. Like, seriously, the best on the system. And Wicked Child is one of the best songs ever. It definitely shows its age though, so I recommend playing the Anniversary Collection, but on console. The PC one has a lot of bugs. Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. This is a very controversial entry in the series. On one hand, people who watched Angry Video Game Nerd can't develop their own opinion without a YouTuber telling them how to feel, so they vehemently despise it. On the other hand, people who love it because a YouTuber who loves it told them to love it. So either way, they're getting their opinions fed to them. My next sentence is going to be a little bit more controversial than either of those jabs though. I don't think either of these groups have actually played Simon's Quest. Most of the people who watch modern retrospectives aren't playing the games themselves. They just want the background noise while they half pay attention while doing chores or schoolwork. Those who watch AVGN don't play the games and just want to hear him yell and say poop, shit, diarrhea, and butt farts. I think a very small amount of them, less than 10%, have actually played Simon's Quest all the way through. That said, it really doesn't matter. You're not getting into heaven just because you're a good little media ingester who enjoys content the right way. I personally think that Simon's Quest requires a much more nuanced approach than either of these two camps have. People care too much about the extremes. No one can have a middle-of-the-road opinion. It has to be you either hate something or you absolutely love something, and that sucks. So I played the NES version, and I initially didn't finish it before my review of it. A lot of reviewers don't finish their games. Even if they do love it, they don't finish their games, because you don't need to finish a game to know whether it's good or not. But someone was crying in the comments that I can't hate something unless I experience it fully. Personally, I don't have to be shot to know I wouldn't like it. I did cave eventually, finished it, and didn't update my review because, wowie zowie, my opinion didn't change. Simon's Quest is an open world version of Castlevania, and in that regard, it's very ahead of its time. Pretty much everything about it went on to inspire Symphony of the Night, and thus the Metroidvania genre as a whole. We owe Simon's Quest a lot. Without Simon's Quest, you couldn't crank it to Fat Art of Hornet. We owe Simon's Quest so much, more than we can ever repay, and I kind of despise it for that because of how bad it is. It was so close to being good. The main issue is all of what it attempts. It attempted too much too early. No saves in the cart, so a larger game is less playable. The password system works, but come on, that's not a solution, that's a cost-saving measure. They put those in so they didn't have to spend a couple extra bucks on a damn save battery. The dialogue is translated poorly, like AI translation levels of poorly. Because of this, the game can't properly instruct you on how to play. This game needs you to have some guidance, and the manual just didn't cut it either. So if the main way of conveying info to the player doesn't function, then the game becomes a guessing game. You're forced to try and translate their text that's already in English to figure out how to play. Finding key items requires you to talk to people for hints. That doesn't work with a bad translation, so you have unlocks that are genuinely impossible for you to figure out otherwise. I gave up on this pretty quickly and just watched a guide. Unfortunately, using a guide defeats the purpose of this being an exploration game. By using a guide, I'm denying myself this experience, but I was given no choice because of the translations. If you want to use guides, go ahead, but personally, I don't use guides until I'm actually stuck. I think even with the translations fixed and better guidance, I don't think I would have liked Simon's Quest. Being directionless is annoying, and sometimes too much freedom is a bad thing, but when I know exactly what I'm doing, it's still not fun. Also, instant death spots in towns is something that should just get you jail time or an execution. I'd be totally down to play a remake of this if something like that fixed it, but to me, it's already too late for the original. Still better than Castlevania The Adventure though. Send your hate mail to hell, I'll be there to receive it. Haunted Castle. This one is a result of YouTuber privilege. I wasn't going to play it originally because I'm not huge on arcade games, but Konami saw my streams of me and my wife playing Aria of Sorrow on my other channel, so they tossed us a key to the Dominus collection on the Xbox Series. We played Dawn of Sorrow, and I used it to play Haunted Castle and Haunted Castle Revisited. Haunted Castle is interesting. Castlevania is a console game that dials back on arcade-like gameplay systems. They made it easier and more forgiving since people at home bought the game already and weren't paying every time they died. There was no incentive to make the game excessively hard to continue making quarters. So this was at a time that many home console games were playing essentially arcade games but on a console. So Castlevania really stood out because of its uniqueness, but also because of it being a home console friendly game. It was made for a console and it really showed that. But Haunted Castle is taking Castlevania 1 and doing a soft reboot for an arcade game. So they had to take Castlevania and make it worse by changing the game to be harder for better quarter payouts. This is a big reason why Japanese audiences, and American audiences by extension, didn't care for HC. It was way too hard, and I agree. When playing the game as intended, there is numerous cheap, just free deaths, where the game effectively just says, put in another quarter, idiot. HC was the kind of arcade game where you weren't playing through with a single quarter. But to be fair, HC wasn't even going to be a Castlevania game at first. It was made to be its own thing, but due to some managerial issues, Konami took over and decided to change it to be a Castlevania game. It's a hard game, and I will admit, I did not play fair. Then again, neither did Haunted Castle. It's a great looking game though. It really showed how far apart the console and arcade experience was at this time. Arcade games just wouldn't work in port form, so it made consoles like Sega systems more impressive when they did pull it off. In my review on Backlogged, I said, those of you paying quarters to play Haunted Castle should instead hire a dominatrix to step on your marbles. It's cheaper and you'll get the same experience. Maybe if you pay a little extra, she'll let you call her Dracula. It's probably the craziest thing that I've said, but I stand by it. I was cooking. If you think the original Haunted Castle is fun, it's because you have a humiliation or BDSM kink. The remaster thankfully makes it better in every way. Also, yes, I do think Haunted Castle is worse than Simon's Quest. Haunted Castle Revisited. Revisited is a remake made exclusively as a bonus for the Dominus collection. I love this version of the game. I've never been big on arcade games, but this remake is gorgeous. It has all the modern sensibilities you'd expect while keeping the spirit of this classical era. If you haven't played it, please play it for yourself. It's a big ask for me to tell you to buy the Dominus collection for just this remake, but that's the great thing about Dominus. It's not just one game. You're getting remasters of all the DS games in addition to Haunted Castle Revisited. Order of Ecclesia, Dawn of Sorrow, and Portrait of Ruin are among the best modern era Castlevania games. I think they're also the last, unless we're counting Lords of Shadow. HCR is beautiful, fun, well-paced, but it's not perfect. It's not challenging enough to be an arcade game, and it's not long enough to be a classical entry. It's very middle of the road. Blink and you might miss it sort of experience. I was so sad when I beat it because I know it's going to be at least another decade before I see another side-scroller Castlevania. It's beyond messed up that the newest Castlevania we get after 15 years is an arcade remaster that no one wanted. That's it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to tip your mole. I take likes, subscribes, and emojis from the darkest reaches of the void beyond man or mole's comprehension. Emojis of true horror and despair. Or a bat, whatever. Bye.